Hey guys, I'm going to teach you how to build a Ruby on Rails app and host that on Heroku in this video. The first thing you'll need to do is download Ruby and set up Ruby on Rails, and you can figure out how to do that at lynda.com and any other YouTube videos you can find probably. But there's a good video on installing it on Windows and one down here for Mac. All BYU students have access to lynda.com and it's got some great videos, so I highly suggest you get that downloaded. Before I talk about any of the other prerequisites, let's start building a Rails application once you get it downloaded. You do that by saying Rails new, and then you give it a name. We're going to make ours Heroku demo, and I'm going to put -o so that a database doesn't get built with it, because we don't need a database for this. So as that's building, another thing you'll need is the Heroku CLI. And if you just go to Google and type in Heroku CLI download, you'll find this link that'll take you to this page. And you can download the CLI, or the command line interface, that lets you talk to Heroku from a terminal or a command line. You'll also want to set up an account on Heroku. Just go to heroku.com and sign up. All right, the build is done. You'll see here we have a Heroku demo app that's been built. It's kind of like Conan's DMP, where it just builds the whole application for you. So now what we want to do is cd into that directory, the Heroku demo, and we're going to generate a controller by saying Rails generate controller. We're going to name it Heroku. Doesn't matter what you name it. And we're going to give it an index function or method. The reason we're doing this is we're setting up an endpoint for our application to have so that we can show that it works, basically. So now that it's built, we can go into App, Controllers, Heroku Controller, and you'll see we have our index function here like we specified. And all we're going to do is we're going to say render some JSON data. It's just going to be a string that says, you did it. Great job. Great job. Once that's saved, we should be able to now go and say Rails S to start a Rails server. And once that gets loaded up, we can come over here. And it should start that up on localhost 3000. Yep, it says that in the terminal. And we made a Heroku controller, so we can type Heroku/index, our function, and it returns the text that we gave it. So as you can see, we have a functioning application here on our local host. But now we want to set it up in Heroku. And the way that we do that, I'm going to split my terminal down here. And the first thing you're going to do, I'm going to cd into that Heroku demo area again, maybe make the screen a little bit wider. What I'm going to do is you first have to log into Heroku by saying Heroku, and that'll become available once you have the CLI downloaded. It knows my email, so I'll say yes by pressing enter, and I'll log in. And there I am, I'm logged in. Once you've logged in, you need to create a new app. And for those that have Heroku, you can only have 5 free apps, and you see that I have 4 right here. So make sure you delete one if you already have 5. And what you're going to do in your command line is say Heroku space create, and you can give it a name. And we'll say this is Heroku demo MISM first years. I'll put a 1 for that. And what that's going to do, well, name must start with a letter and can only contain lowercase letters, numbers, and dashes. Okay, so we can't have underscores. So let's replace that and see if that works. There it goes. So it created this new Heroku app for me. And what we're going to have to do now that we have our application built, we've seen that it's working. Heroku uses Git to publish its applications. So we're going to have to say git add dash capital A, that just means add everything. And then we can say git commit initial commit. Once it's all committed, this is where it gets a little different. You're going to say git push Heroku master. And that will start the build process that allows your app to be built on Heroku. It's going to take a little while for the first time, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, just because it has to install Ruby on Rails and all of its dependencies and get everything set up like we already did, but on Heroku's servers. So I'm going to pause this and we'll come back to it. Great, so it looks like it finished, and you'll see here it says released v4, and then it gives us the URL that our app is released at. So if I click on that, I'm going to open it in Chrome. And it says the page does not exist, and that's because we're not at the right endpoint. If we then type in Heroku/index, then you'll see the same page that we had before, except this time it's hosted for anyone in the world to see at this URL up top. With other apps that you build, Ruby on Rails is known by Heroku. Heroku knows exactly how to load it up, but you may have to declare what's called a proc file for other applications you build, like maybe a Flask Python app, and just tell it how to start your web application. But this is just a basic way that you can get Heroku up and running, and I encourage you to look it up more, look at tutorials, and I hope you can figure it out. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks.